CFA or MBA? In this video, I'm going to compare the career paths, salaries, and costs of both of these programs. I've personally done both, so I'll add some personal insight as well, some of which you may find surprising. I'm going to cover the CFA first and then the MBA, so let's get right into it. The CFA program really is the gold standard for investment analysis. In this program, you'll learn how to calculate prices for stocks, bonds, derivatives, and more. You'll learn portfolio management, economics, and how to be an ethical individual. Now, which careers are best suited for the CFA designation? For sure, buy-side roles, portfolio manager, or equity research, the CFA is almost certainly required. The CFA also helps a lot in wealth management or financial advising. It gives you a lot of credibility and can serve as a substitute for other licenses in the field. Other finance careers where the CFA is very respected but maybe not required include investment banking, corporate finance, and some consulting careers. CFA salary data. I'm going to show you real data, but keep in mind there is a very wide range depending on seniority and role, and most of this is mostly applicable to the United States. According to a salary survey conducted by the CFA Institute in 2016, corporate financial analysts were making about $80,000 per year in total compensation, while portfolio managers were making $300,000 per year or more. And according to payscale.com, the average CFA charter holder is making $92,000 per year in base salary. It's important to keep in mind that these are averages, and for very early career charter holders, they're probably making a lot less than this and will have to work their way up later. The important thing is, if you feel underpaid or undervalued in your current role, don't be afraid to advocate for yourself for a promotion or a raise, or to look for opportunities at other companies that will pay you what you think you are worth. The cost of the CFA program is about $5,000 to complete all the exams, depending on how many times you have to take them, when you sign up, and what study materials you may choose to purchase. There are also annual dues to the CFA Institute of about $300 per year, in addition to any dues going to your local society. The good news is that your employer will usually cover these expenses if you work in investments. The CFA exam is extremely difficult and a massive commitment. On average, candidates spend about 300 hours per exam studying, with pass rates averaging about 50% per level nowadays. These recent pass rates are actually higher than when I took the exam, so people are either getting smarter or the tests are getting easier, I'm not really sure, but it's probably good news if you're currently taking these exams. If you want to hear more about how I personally passed all 3 CFA exams, I'll post a link to another video right here for you to check out. In my opinion, the major weakness of the CFA program is a lack of support and resources for actually finding another job if you're trying to break into the industry. The local CFA societies usually host networking events, which I highly recommend you go to, but in general, you're on your own for finding a new career or breaking into the industry. All in all, if you complete the CFA program, you will prove to future employers that you know a lot about finance and investing, and that you have the grit and determination to complete such a rigorous self-study program, which is a good thing no matter what. For the MBA degree, the first thing I want to mention is there is a big difference between the top 10 or the top 20 schools and other programs. The top schools will have a much more recognizable brand globally, they'll have a stronger alumni network, and more resources to hire the best professors and career services at their schools. So for that reason, if you choose to do an MBA, I do recommend going to one of the highest ranked schools that you can get into. I do believe that the MBA program is the better option if you're looking for a career switch or to move into a new industry. The MBA can work as a career reset in those situations. The most common career paths coming out of an MBA are generally management consulting, investment banking, or working for a large corporation in finance or marketing or general management. Other MBA grads go into careers in investing, private equity, or joining a startup. Okay, now salary data for the top MBA programs. At the top schools, graduates are averaging about $140,000 to $150,000 per year upon graduation. Of course, that's only an average, and there's a wide range depending on what type of role you pursue. Jobs in consulting and investment banking typically pay the most, which can top $200,000 per year in total compensation. On the other hand, corporate jobs typically pay between $90,000 and $110,000. And this pay disparity does make sense because those consulting careers and investment banking careers are much more demanding, and they're working so many more hours. They're probably working double the hours of the corporate roles. So it makes sense that they get paid about twice as much. So if you do choose to pursue those higher paying careers, just keep in mind that there won't be much of a work-life balance in the beginning. The main downside to these MBA programs is the cost. Tuition nowadays can run upwards of $150,000 for the entire program, as well as 2 years of foregone salary if you choose to go full-time. So you'll have to do the calculation for yourself depending on what you're making before and what you plan to make after and what your career goals really are to decide if this is worth it. Now, a lot of people are curious, how difficult are MBA classes actually? And in my experience, I learned a lot in my MBA program. The classes were very interesting, the professors were very good, but in terms of actual difficulty, I don't think it really compares at all to the CFA program. I think the CFA is much more difficult. And you just have to look at the pass rates to see this. In the CFA program, people are studying for hundreds of hours and half the people are still failing. Whereas in an MBA, I've never really heard of someone failing out of an MBA because of grades. The only way you really don't finish an MBA program is if you're not doing the work at all or if you stop paying tuition. There are two parts to the MBA program that are actually extremely difficult. Number one is getting accepted in the first place. These schools are very competitive and have very low acceptance rates in general, so you do have to put a lot of work into the application process and researching the schools and telling your story. Maybe I'll make a video on that later. Let me know if you guys might be interested in that. The other difficult part is actually landing that final job at the end of the program or your internship, which then leads to a full-time job. These schools will give you a lot of support and a lot of training and resources to learn about companies and industries, and they'll organize networking events for you, but it is up to you to put in the work to make sure you are prepared for these interviews. You have to remember that you're not just competing against your classmates, you're competing against MBA students all over the country and in some cases all over the world. At the end of the day, I do believe that the brand power of these schools on your resume and the strength of the alumni networks makes these programs worth it in the long run. And at the end of the day, if you just can't choose, you can do both. A lot of people do choose to do both if they work in investments. Please remember to like and subscribe to see more videos like this, and I'll see you in the next one.